Well, hello everyone. My name is Danny and I'm a Library Development Officer for the Gold Coast Libraries. And today, welcome to today's Financially Literate Youth webinar. So before we begin, on behalf of Gold Coast Libraries, I'd like to acknowledge and pay respect to the people of the Yugambeh language region, both past and present, and to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who live here today. So today on this great weather day, I'm here to introduce you to Jai Hobbs, who with his wife Marlie wrote the book, Financially Fly, sorry, it's so exciting, Fly, Financially Literate Youth. So Marlie and Jai Hobbs are a husband and wife team who together have built more than 10 properties, started, owned and operated several businesses, including a mortgage brokerage, a retail shop and cafes, a franchise company, online shop, a ready-made meal business and property developments. So having journeyed through the highs and the lows with backgrounds in law, finance, business, health, property, and most proudly of all, parenthood, they have a passion to educate and help inspire future generations to soar into life after school and make confident and informed financial decisions. So I will just pop over here a minute. And so if you have any questions throughout the presentation, pop them into the group chat and Jai will answer them at the end of the presentation. And I'll also pop a link in there on how you can borrow the book from the Gold Coast Libraries, and you can also get the book from your local bookstore. So we'd like to welcome Jai.
Hey, Danny, how are you? Thanks for having us on board.
Yep, thank you.
Perfect. So look, thank you everyone for taking your time. I know we've had some pretty bad weather. I'm on the Sunshine Coast, so we probably haven't copped it as bad as you have on the Gold Coast, but we finally got some good weather. So I appreciate you taking your time out of this lovely day to hopefully take a couple of little gold nuggets away, and hopefully I can provide that. So before we get into Fly, I just want to give you a little bit of a background. As Danny mentioned, we've done a few things both in business and property. I, like most people, left school not really having a clue what I wanted to do. My wife's a lot more organised than me, so she was straight into a law degree and progressing down that path. I left not knowing too much. I was above average football player, but not good enough to crack it. So I ended up working on boats initially and fell into finance when I was about 19, 20. Just through a contact through football. I was always interested in numbers, but after reading a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad from Robert Kiyosaki, that changed my thinking and essentially changed the path of where I was heading. Fast forward, as Danny mentioned, we've sold a few businesses, mainly through the finance and the property area. But the drive behind Fly was really the lack of education that we first experienced, and then also seeing through our mortgage business, people walking in not having too much of a clue about what they're doing and what they're getting themselves into. So before I sort of dig down too much on that, I'd just like to share a video with you about Fly, so you can see what it's all about, and then we'll get into it. So 2 seconds while I get this off. It's going to start for me.
JFK wisely said, "The future promise of any nation can be directly measured by the prospects of its youth." In 2018, the University of Melbourne revealed less than 25% of young people aged 17 to 24 could accurately answer 5 questions on financial literacy. In 2019, Deloitte Global Millennial Survey found more than half of millennials globally think their financial situations will worsen or stay the same. This is what Australia's young people face today, and it's time to break the trend. Fly is a handbook and reference guide like no other. It is designed to arm young people with financial knowledge and literacy to set themselves up for success as they chart the course of their life and avoid costly mistakes. Fly has been created by 3 parents who are experts in finance, law and journalism, empowering readers with the information they need in one convenient and credible resource, allowing them to make informed decisions and spread their wings as they embrace life after school. Let's help our youth fly. Visit www.financiallyliterateyouth.com untitled.com.au to find out more.
So that's just a little bit of a video explaining what it's all about. And I suppose going back to why we wrote it, one, we've got two young boys, as you probably saw in the photo just earlier, 6 and 9. So a big drive behind them was to make sure that they had a good start in life, but also through the mortgage business, seeing people come in, trying to get into the property market mainly, and just having really no clue about what finance is about. I certainly didn't get taught that at school, so we'd love to raise that education or raise that bar. We started the idea wanting to go around to schools and give out presentations and give out handbooks. I realised quickly that I'd go broke trying to do that at any mass scale. So fortunately, Penguin jumped on board just before COVID to publish the book. As COVID hit, they actually pulled the pin and said, look, let's pump the brakes, let's come back and wait and see once COVID comes through. And that was a blessing, actually. So about middle of last year, we all confirmed it, and the book hit the market at the start in January this year. So it's definitely a good thing for us. It's a give back. It's a way that we wanted to give back without blindly giving money to a charity. We wanted to give some information, share some experiences and some knowledge that we've gained over the years, mainly through trial and error, and make sure that's in an easy to read, easy to reference resource that people can refer back to through their life. So you would have those statistics for youth. I just wanted to jump on those stats. And if you're a youth these days, you're probably looking at those stats thinking, I'm stuffed. But some of those stats are half of millennials globally think their financial situation's going to stay the same or worsen. Now, that was actually that was in 2019 before COVID. So our economy's come through that pretty good, but I think that might be just the same, if not a little bit worse. Less than 25% of young people can answer 5 questions on financial literacy accurately. I was definitely one of those 5 that couldn't do it. Household debt to income ratio currently stands at 190%. So interest rates, record low interest rates, are definitely aiding that at the moment or helping that. But that's a pretty substantial debt level. Housing affordability is on the decline, especially of late. We've seen a jump up in house prices. And those aged 15 to 24 are seeking an unemployment rate almost 3 times the national average. So if you're a youth coming out of school, you think I'm staffed up, it's all behind me, I can't do it. That's the negatives. Look, the positives are the best thing you can do is educate yourself. And unfortunately, that can only come from you. Finance is one of those industries. There's a hell of a lot of sharks out there willing to take your money, 7 steps to this, 3 steps to that. You're the only one that can take control of your financial situation or your position forward for finance. So definitely educating yourself. It's not that complex. Finance and just looking after yourself in the basics. There's a few basic things you need to know, but it's really not that complex. Humans are naturally afraid of the unknown. So a lot of us tend to, if we don't know about it, we sweep it under the carpet, or ignorance is bliss. We'll worry about that later. I'm 21, 22. What do I need to worry about my super for? So we're afraid of the unknown. And the other thing is, what you focus on is what you attract. So focusing on the opportunities. If you're a youth these days, no longer are you competing for a job in your own town. It's usually your own state, country, or pretty much worldwide these days with the internet and the growth of the mobile workforce. So your opportunities are so much more now than what they were 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. But so too are the dangers. On that, why educate yourself on financial literacy? And I suppose we'd like to give an example of driving a car with the brakes on. So if it's not about, any financial expert will tell you, it's not about how much money you earn, it's about what you do with that money that makes the most difference. So I'm sure we all know people that seem to earn a truckload of cash, but they've never got any money, or they don't have any assets, or they live on credit. They use tomorrow's income to pay for today's lifestyle. So there's a lot of dangers out there, and some of those examples that we've all probably run into. When you're young, you come out, you want that flash car. To give you an example, a $30,000 car loan at typical interest rates over a 5-year term ends up costing you about $40,000. Now, that $30,000 car in 5 years' time isn't worth $30,000 anymore. It's probably worth $15,000. So you've just spent $40,000 on a $15,000 asset. If I tell that to my 9-year-old, he thinks I'm pretty silly for doing that. Yet when we get older, it's something that a lot of us, including me, have made that mistake and gone and done. So the book's about just pointing that out, getting people to understand what the actual cost of that is, so they can make an informed decision. Now, on the flip side of that, and something that I think is the eighth wonder of the world, is compound interest. So compound interest works over time. As an example, if you took $10,000 and you invested it now at a 7% return, it's pretty easy these days to get a decent return around sort of 5, 6, 7% average annually, and you add $250 a month to that, then in 25 years, you're going to have $252,000. In 30 years, you're going to have $373,000. So the compound interest works hugely. And I think that the sooner people can understand the benefit of compound interest, and super's probably the best example of compound interest, about constantly adding to something, leaving those returns in there and letting that snowball grow over time. So that part on financial education, it's making sure when you earn your money that you're doing the best with it, and then when you invest your money, that it's growing for you in the long term. I'll just share my screen again with you, and we'll go over a couple of the points that are covered in Fly. Let's get that bigger on the screen so you can see it. So a couple of the points that are covered in Fly. The first thing that we cover is earning money. So the big thing is when you earn money, what's it all about? Sorry, let's see if we can get that. No, it doesn't work. Earning money. So we cover tax. We cover things like superannuation. We cover award wages. Things that most of us, I certainly didn't know when I started working. Budgeting, like we said before, it's not what you earn, it's what you do with what you earn. And probably the biggest financial tip that any finance expert's ever going to give anyone is spend less than you earn. Such an easy concept to say, very hard to do. Your credit record or your credit report, that has got a little bit more complex in the last couple of years. So most people are only used to that credit report showing what we call negative reporting. About 12, 18 months ago, it's changed to what we call comprehensive credit reporting. So it not only shows everything you've got, but it also shows, sorry, I'll just see if I can get that bigger for you. My apologies. It doesn't show just every bad debt you've got, but it also shows all your current debts, the limit, the balance, and the last 24 months worth of repayments on your credit file. Your credit file is like gold. Protect it like gold. There's a company called Equifax, that's EQUIFAX, that hold everyone's credit file. There's another one called Dun & Bradstreet, but most financial institutions use Equifax. Now, you can actually get a free copy of your credit report. If you go onto the website, you can order a free copy, you can pay for an urgent copy, and then you can also sign up for alerts. So anytime that someone checks your credit file, you'll get an email to let you know what that's been all about. So your credit file holds your last 5 years of inquiries, plus all your current loans and any negatives, so defaults, bankruptcies, court judgments. And anytime you go for credit, be it phone, credit card, home loan, car loan, whatever that is, they're going to have a look at your credit file. So you need to make sure you understand what that's all about. We cover major purchases, cars for most people, property. Probably the biggest investment that some people make in their life is their own home, and if they want to, further investments into property. Cover the finance portion of it, so things like mortgage insurance, what's involved there, family guaranteed loans, different deposit options. Other investments, we do cover shares. We go over cryptocurrencies in there and what's pretty hot at the moment, which is Bitcoin. I'm sure a few of you have either dabbled in it, got it, or definitely heard about it. Starting a business. Australia is definitely the land of the small business. A lot of people aspire to work for themselves and build that empire. We cover things that you should know before starting a business. Not to say don't do it. If you want to do it, go and do it, but just be aware of what you need to know in setting up business, making sure your structure's right, and having the right team on board before you start. Protecting your financial future. So building assets is fantastic, but what happens if something goes wrong? What happens if something goes wrong with you, your property, your business, etc.? How do you protect that? Financial hardship is an area that's often not spoken about, but is unfortunately all too common. So if you find yourself, if people find themselves in a financial hole, the first thing to do is put the shovel down, stop digging, seek help, sort out someone who knows what they're talking about, who can help you with that. And a lot of the times getting out is not that difficult, but there's some fantastic resources in that book that can guide you into where you need to go if you're finding yourself in financial hardship, And the last thing is in yourself. The biggest thing is believing in yourselves. We're big believers of making sure you believe in yourself, believe in your ability, and that really anything is possible. So we touch a bit on that about setting goals and striving to be the best version of you. Now, Fly is not a book, well, it is definitely a book that you can read cover to cover, but ideally the way we've designed it is a reference guide that all of these parts that we're looking at here necessarily won't be relevant at all one part in time of your life. So we've designed it like a reference guide that you can revert back to when you're buying a property. You need to go through that. If you're starting a business, just as you finish out school, you might go, I need to budget, spend less than I earn. I'm sure no one wakes up and says I need to do a budget, but when you've got no cash in your account, it's probably pretty important to do so. So it's designed as a reference guide to go back to. We've made the book as a reference, as timeless as possible, to divert you to the areas that you need to go to get the up-to-date relevant information. So we ideally wanted to make it so that it was remain relevant for as long as possible without having to change statistics or rates in the book as they change from year to year. And so it is designed as something not to just read, put down and never forget, but something to revert back to at all times. As we're releasing the book, a lot of people are asking, what's your top financial tips, is a question that we tend to get asked the most. So I just wanted to cover a few that we cover in the book. We also tell people through our finance business. The first one is, we've already covered it, spend less than you earn. Very, very simple concept to speak about, very hard to do in reality. An easy budgeting tool is what's known as a 50-30-20 rule. So that's defined as your net income, so after tax, 50% of your income spent on things that you need. So things you need to survive, be it food, accommodation, essential travel, etc. 30% on your wants, so things, entertainment, going out, new toys, whatever that might be, things that you want to do. And 20% saving or ideally investing. So the sooner that you can get your habit into that, we're all pretty guilty of spending to what we earn rather than the other way around. But the sooner you can get yourself into a budgeting situation and trying to stick to it. Now, I'm not a fan of eating a bag of rice a week and never going out for a coffee. You've got to live. You're only here once. But it's definitely getting yourself into a budgeting and not blindly wasting money, and being aware of what you spend is paramount, because as the income grows, if you don't have that simple basic concept under control, then it can get out of hand. And if it gets out of hand later in life, the numbers are bigger, the zeros are more, and the problem's bigger. So that's probably the number one tip. Set savings, or better yet, investing targets. Set yourself goals and reward yourself when you get there. Now, for young children, that might be, I want a new bike. So they'll save for a new bike, or I want to save for the first car, or as it goes, save for a house deposit, whatever that is. But setting key goals and making sure you're giving yourself realistic timelines to get there is important, and reward yourself along the way. You know, it's not all boring, it's not all sacrifice. There has to be some fun. So make sure you reward yourself. Ideally, stay out of credit card debt. Credit card debt can be massively expensive. So I'm not saying don't have a credit card, but if you've got one, don't spend beyond your means. All right? Make sure you've got the cash. If you've got going to put something on the card, be in a position where you can pay it off. Don't use tomorrow's income to pay for today's lifestyle. Not saying don't borrow money. I'm in the business of lending money, but it's lending money for assets that appreciate or go up in value. Borrowing money for clothes or lifestyle or depreciating assets is a pretty quick way to really put yourself in a position to keep working hard for a very long time with not as much reward as what you possibly could have. Monitor your super. So a lot of people, especially young people, don't worry about their super. They find it hard to correlate between now and their future self. And we'll touch on that a little bit later. But monitor your super. Ideally have one. If you have multiple supers, you're going to have multiple fees. A lot of people also just be cautious. There's normally some insurance inside your super, so life insurance, risk insurance. Understand what that insurance is and make sure that you're comfortable how much you've got. So insurance, I think, is good, but is it the best being inside your super, or should you be paying that outside? Although paying it inside your super, it means it doesn't come out of your pocket or your wages. You are still paying it. So that will eat away at your super balance over the years. So just get into your super, understand what's in there, have a look at your super fund, compare it on the market. There's some fantastic funds out there. I'm not going to get into today which ones are fantastic and which aren't, but make sure you understand how much fees you're paying, because it might not, a 1 or 2% fee now might not seem much, but you extend that out over the next 30 years and that's a big chunk of cash. And all of those, look, they're probably not going to make you Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg, but they're definitely going to put you in the right position. And if you can spend less than you earn, make sure you set yourself some investing goals, stay out of credit card debt, monitor your super. That takes a hell of a lot of stress off your life, making sure that you're never going to be stressed about money, and know that you're setting yourself up for future. I'd just like to touch on some interesting facts about future self and why a lot of us find it hard to correlate between where we are now and where we'll be in 20, 30 years' time. Get you back again.
Them.
That's a problem for future Homer. Man, I don't envy that guy.
Them.
That's a problem for future.
So one of the big things that we wanted to understand when we were writing the book is, why do people not take notice of that? Why, when you're young, you don't really bother? Not a lot of people, some people do, but a lot of people don't bother about their future financial health, but they're just worried about what they're living now. So there's an interesting article by Raise, which is an investment company. It's an app on your phone that you can put money in, and they'll round up your purchases and invest that. They come up with a study, and they said several studies have revealed that we often treat our future selves like complete strangers. That's one of the reasons why we find it hard to save or choose a salad over a burger. Yeah, and we know that salad is probably better for us, but a burger tastes a hell of a lot better. Our brains are hardwired to not think about our future self. So studies have found that thinking about your current self differs different brain regions than thinking about your future self, and that when you think about someone else, it actually triggers the same brain region as when you're thinking about future you. So that means we can't distinguish in our brains between someone down the road and our future self. And we also prefer definite over indefinite options. So if I say to my kids, do you want one marshmallow now or two, maybe 2 and 3 hours, they're going to take the one now. So it's just an interesting couple of points there about why is it so hard for us to stop and think and go, okay, well, we should be doing this for our future self. Doesn't take a hell of a lot of effort, but just a little bit of understanding about super and where we're going to be, and we're going to be in 20, 30 years' time. Now, we mentioned a couple of statistics before, and one of those, we've got a few people on, so I'd like to give away a copy of a book for someone to win a copy of a book. And if you can put this in the chat box, and Danny can let me know the first one to put it up. So if someone can tell me what the current debt to income, household debt to income ratio is, if you put that up in the chat box, what is the current debt to income ratio? If you can put that up in the chat box, then I'll get Danny to get your name and address, and we'll send you a copy as a book as a part of a thank you of listening today. And hopefully you can share that with family and friends, and you get a few things out of that. So guys, the top tips that we cover in our book. I'll just share the screen for you again so you can see the top tips in the last page of the book about where we want to be. Interesting one from Albert Einstein: a clever person solves a problem, a wise person avoids it. I think it's very true with finance. It's a lot harder once you're in it. So the top tips that we've got in our book is care about future you. We've covered that now. Write down your goals. Don't just put them in your head. Write them down and refer back to them regularly. Tip 3, find your supportive tribe. So life's not about doing things on your own. It's about making sure that you've got the right tribe around you, be it accountants, mortgage brokers, financial planners, solicitors, whatever that is, whichever step you decide to go, mentors, or good friends that you can turn, friends or family you can turn to ask questions. We don't have all the answers. It's unrealistic to expect that we are. So you've got to find that supportive tribe. Embrace fear. It's scary for everyone, but embracing fear and doing it anyway, but understanding the risk before you go into it is definitely a key point. If you don't know, ask. That's the biggest thing with finance. I think a lot of people sometimes get a little bit ashamed if they don't understand finance, or if they don't know what they think they should know. There are a lot of things to know. So if you don't know something, ask around. There's a lot of people that are more than willing to share their knowledge with you. As you develop through your life, know your worth. I'm a big believer of learn before you earn, though. So in an industry, you've got to learn the skills, you've got to hone your skills. But as you do that, know your worth and make sure you're getting paid for your worth. Know where your money goes, spend less than you earn, don't blindly waste money, but just understand where it goes. Leverage, don't be scared of leverage. So by leverage, I mean borrowing money to buy property, borrowing money to buy shares, borrowing money to get into businesses. Don't be scared of leverage. Leverage can make returns so much better. On the flip side, they can make them a lot worse. So once again, you've got to educate yourself before you get there, but don't be scared of leverage when you get there. Spread your risk. Now, take this one with a grain of salt, please, because I'm not saying go and invest in everything and hope that it all goes up. That's gambling. That's not investing. But make sure that you've got some property, and most people do through their own home. That shares, you normally own shares through your super fund, but just understand where they are, understand how they're performing. And a lot of people build their career or build their businesses, so you're pretty spread there. And tip 10 is be patient. It takes time. Building wealth takes a hell of a lot of time. I'm sure there's a few very, very rare stories of cracking it big and selling businesses for millions, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars. But that's 1 in a billion. So really, if you get that opportunity, great, go for it. But it does take time. Compound interest takes time to build. It takes time to work. But the sooner you can start, the better off you'll be. So look, I want to thank you all for listening today. I hope there's a few gold nuggets in there. I hope a few of you get a chance to have a look at the book and you get some great information out there. I'm looking forward to Danny telling me who threw up the first answers. And on that, the household debt to income ratio currently stands at 190%. So Danny, if you can let me know the first one to put that up, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
If anyone's got any questions, pop them in the chat and I'm more than happy to answer anything.
So Carla came back in first with 190% and then 180%.
190 was it.
90. Okay, so Carla is it.
Carla, you won. Congratulations.
That's fantastic. And I'll just say, if anyone wants to pop any, we've got one new message. Yay, Carla's excited. She said, yes, thank you.
No dramas. No dramas. But yeah, guys, is there any questions at all that anyone would like to ask? There's no such thing as a silly question. You can throw anything at me.
Yeah, I think they're having thinking time.
Danny, have you got any questions?
Well, you were talking about having the credit check, and what if you're an 18-year-old and you haven't had a credit card, you haven't had a loan, or haven't had anything like that? So is it something that you need to do something to get start getting good credit rating if you wanted to borrow, anything like that? Or
good question. So there's a little bit of a fallacy in there to say that you've got to have a good credit rating as such.
Yep.
If you're brand new and you've never had any credit, then that's great. Your credit file's brand new.
Okay, cool.
When you go for a loan, and most people are worried about that so that they can get a loan, or mainly for a house or a car or something, it's more based around if your income, your savings, and what you do with your money, your spending habits. So since the Royal Commission, they're drilling down a lot more on that, and they want to make sure that you're not blowing all your money, because if then they put a commitment on top of you, they're going to worry about how you're going to meet that commitment. So ideally, if you don't have credit and you don't need it, don't get it until you need it.
Fantastic. Okay, good to know. In saying that, I just wanted to ask Afterpay, what you think about Afterpay. And
Afterpay and Zip Pay, buy now, pay later. It's a big thing in the last 18 months, 2 years. It's skyrocketed. I'm sure we all wish we bought shares in it 12 months ago. But it can be, the growth of it is, it's a different way of thinking. So the cost is on the retailer, not the customer. If you can afford it, it's not a bad thing. The scary part about it is Afterpay doesn't do credit checks. So if people have got bad credit, they don't do any credit checks, and you can have multiple Afterpays. So Afterpay is just on a per item. So you can actually have 5, 6, 7, 10 Afterpays.
Wow.
And
Don't do it.
No, the scary part is
This one.
you're spending tomorrow's income on today's lifestyle. And at the end of the day, do you really need it? If you can't afford to pay for it, do you really need it? And are you living within your means? So look, if someone does Afterpay and they can afford it and they're just spreading it out for some reason, that's cool.
Okay.
But I'm very cautious of it with the youth. In our mortgage business, it's more often than not, people have multiple Afterpays at the moment. And when you go for a home loan, even though it's 4 payments, they expense those 4 payments out over the next 30 years. So it massively affects your borrowing capacity for a home loan. So if you're going to do it, be very cautious. But if you're buying a home loan, get rid of it.
Yeah. Okay. We do have a question from Carla. How can financial literacy be integrated more into schools when teachers are driven by the Australian curriculum for mathematics? Good question.
Yeah. This is something we're pushing on massively at the moment. And look, I don't think it's a sole teacher's responsibility. You know, we can't just try and make it their sole responsibility to educate their kids. I think it's got to happen in the household and in the school. But we're pushing with education ministers at the moment to utilise the resource that we've got, hopefully, or just any resource to make that a compulsory subject. I think that kids should, you know, they're being taught English, they're being taught maths, they're being taught all that stuff. They should be taught what it's like to rent a property, what's your credit file, what it means when you've got credit card debt, how do you buy a property. They should know all this stuff when they come out of school. So we're talking with education ministers at the moment to hopefully crack into it. And we'd love every opportunity to talk to them to try and help and get this and raise that education bar. But I definitely don't think it's the sole responsibility of the schools. And as far as we've done, we've researched the school curriculum. It's only the students that are interested in business and finance that get a little bit of exposure to this stuff, whereas just general subjects don't really touch on it at all. So we'd love to see that more, and that's a big push.
Even as a book like this, for I know they use, you know, textbooks for things like that. So having something this easy to read and useful for it that kids can relate to in their school. We have another question. So do you have any tips for selling items online, i.e. new unworn clothes, secondhand items, homemade items, etc., to try and recoup some money spent that is sitting idle and unused in the house?
Definitely. I think it's a great idea. Where, you know, wife and I went through the stage when we first started buying houses, we accumulated everything and accumulated all this stuff. Now we're absolute Nazis. So anything that doesn't get used, it's gone. So I think it's a fantastic idea. Facebook Marketplace seems to have taken over for a lot of it. I'm sure everyone's seen Gumtree used to be pretty big. Facebook Marketplace seems to have taken over. Amazon's big, but Amazon, you've got to usually warehouse in Amazon, and it's more of a commercial business operation. But for selling items online, Gumtree and Facebook Marketplace seem to work the best. It's free, it's easy, and it's exposure to a lot of people all at the same time. So I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I think Facebook Marketplace is good as well because it feels like they're already got an account, you know them kind of thing. I don't know. It's, yeah, I've picked up a few things on there as well. I probably should share more. Did that answer your question, Carla? Just asking because you popped that through. We'll see if they. Another question is, do you use cryptocurrency or any of those?
Myself personally, no, I don't.
Yeah.
My view on it, I think blockchain technology is amazing. I think it's going to be part of our finance industry in a big way moving forward in validating transactions through a general ledger. I think that the technology behind it is amazing. The thing that I struggle with things like Bitcoin and Dogecoin and Ethereum and all those things is understanding an intrinsic value of it. So at the end of the day, it is just massive supply and demand. There's no intrinsic value. There's nothing that you can pin a value to. If people think it's great, they buy more. If people think it's crap, the price drops. That's it. So I'm very, very wary. I don't own any of it because I can't value it. Unlike buying a BHP shares or a Commonwealth Bank or a property down the road or a business, you can understand an intrinsic value and a return from that asset because it provides a return or it's got a value that you can pin something to, whereas Bitcoin, etc., it don't. And I know there's some people that have made some huge money out of it, and good luck to them. But personally, I don't.
Yeah. Carla's just come back because I asked her if you answered her question. She said yes and no. There hasn't been much take up with items listed on Facebook Marketplace or Gumtree. So not sure if it is the item/audience at the time or the price point.
Yeah, something to play around with, mate. That's selling items 101. Price, audience, marketing, etc.
Yeah.
So, yeah, detailed question, detailed answer. But look, I think it's a great platform. It's just about awareness and getting eyes to it.
Time, thanks. Yep. She said thanks for that. Have we got any more questions coming through?
All good.
Oh, good. I have to say thank you for that. You'll probably be getting a bulk order soon because I've decided I'm going to be giving it to quite a few young people that I know because, yeah, good stuff that you never know or didn't hear or didn't know, and not asking the questions as well. So, yeah, it's definitely I've learned a lot from that as well. And I think my kids, well, give them both presents.
Perfect.
As well. So
it's available as a book, as a hard book, and it's also available as an audio book if that's your thing, or an ebook.
Oh, nice.
So it's all out there, whichever way you prefer to get the information and hold the information. It's there. Yeah,
I was going to say I would put the link to get it from the library in the chat, but I'm also thinking it's one of those books you want to highlight and dog-eared. Not that we do that, but go back to quite a lot, like you were saying. So something that you'd reference a lot. So it'd definitely be good one to purchase. Yes. So yep, Carla, they said thank you very much for your time. So I'd like to thank you for your time as well. It's been really informative. I will pop in the chat about to subscribe to the e-newsletter so you can hear about more events coming up. But thanks, Jai. That was really good, really awesome.
No worries.
I look forward to referring to the book as well. So there's the book. Enjoy the rest of your day, and yeah, we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.